IJN Hyūga is Japan's top dreadnought in Update 2.3 Hot Tracks. It's also the only Super Dreadnought in War Thunder at the moment, armed with the largest cannons in the game. So, is it as overpowered as the name suggests, or does it have an Achilles heel that brings it down? First, some history on Hyuga and its class. Hyuga is one of two Issei-class battleships, which was Japan's third class of dreadnoughts. She was laid down in 1915 and commissioned in 1918. In the interwar period, she received some refits, most notably getting a very visually distinct pagoda mast. After the Battle of Midway, Hyuga's rear turrets were replaced with a flight deck to carry float planes. In 1945, she was sunk by American carrier aircraft, and was then scrapped in 1946 to 1947. In War Thunder, Hyuga comes in a very early fit with 12 14-inch or 356mm cannons split into 6 turrets. These are split into 3 super firing pairs with one at the bow, one amidships, and one at the stern. They have a fire rate of exactly 2 shells per minute per gun, along with the exact same dispersion as the other dreadnoughts. For shells, the 14-inch cannons get HE and APC. The HE shell has the highest pillar of any shell in War Thunder, and can deal some pretty severe damage to anything that's not a dreadnought. It's the best shell to use against most targets, even against more of the heavily armored cruisers, so long as the entire hull isn't covered in armor. The APC shell has the highest pen of any naval shell in War Thunder, along with pretty high filler. It'll pierce straight through most dreadnoughts at most ranges, but can struggle with the dreadnoughts that have turtleback armor schemes like the Russian and German ones. It's the best ammunition for fighting other dreadnoughts or hitting the ammunition racks of other cruisers, and it does pretty well at both roles. Overall, the 14-inch cannons of Hyuga are incredibly powerful, being the second strongest dreadnought guns in War Thunder, only being beaten by the Russian 12-inch cannons with their 55kg SAP shells. For secondary weaponry, Hyuga has 20 140mm cannons and 6 7.7mm Lewis machine guns. It can get 10 of the 140mm cannons onto a single target, and they can fire at 20 RPM per gun. They also have a pretty normal SAP shell, good pen, but low filler. Overall, these are pretty good against destroyers or lightly armed cruisers. However, they can't do much at all against anything with a good amount of armor. The Lewis machine guns aren't incredible, but they are better than the anti-air loadouts of most dreadnoughts and can occasionally take down an aircraft with chip damage or a lucky pilot snipe. When aircraft are out, there's not much that can be done other than hoping that they don't target you. If it's a torpedo bomber coming straight at you, try swapping to the secondary cannons and shooting at it. They provide a surprisingly good anti-air defense against anything that's flying low and slow. Last for Hyuga's weaponry is 6 single underwater torpedo launchers, with 2 of them on each side of the ship, and then 1 on the bow and 1 on the stern. These are about the same as torpedoes on other dreadnoughts. Not very useful, and not really worth using. In survivability, Hyuga is a bit strange and for multiple reasons. First, the shells on the bow and stern super firing pairs have very low protection, with only 30mm of deck armor defending them, making it very easy to detonate the ship's ammunition. Weirdly enough, the powder is on top of the shells with some of the guns. However, with War Thunder's current shell damage models, it's actually more of a strength than a weakness, since shell room detonations are an instant kill, while powder room detonations aren't. Just keep it in mind for if the ammunition damage models are fixed in the future. The other strange part is the belt of the ship. The top of the belt is 305mm, while the bottom is 102mm. These thicknesses are actually swapped, meaning the crew in the midsection of the ship is far more exposed than they should be. This means it's easier to kill the Hyuga by crew damage than with other dreadnoughts. The crew count of 1,360 is pretty high, so it's still pretty resilient, but overall the ship is pretty vulnerable due to its ammunition and swapped belt armor, and it's weaker than lots of the other dreadnoughts. The belt may be fixed eventually, which should help it some, but it will still have vulnerable ammunition at the foremost and rearmost guns. Last for Hyuga's stats is mobility, with a top speed of 44 km per hour, making it the new fastest dreadnought in War Thunder. It's still very slow, just not quite as slow as its competition. For playstyle, Hyuga has excellent cannons with some major vulnerabilities in its armor, so it's a glass cannon, as much as a dreadnought can be a glass cannon at least. Left alone, Hyuga can quickly wipe out ship after ship, however all it takes is one good salvo from an opposing dreadnought or some heavy cruisers to one-shot it. If you encounter an enemy Hyuga, aim for the shell room at the foremost turret for an insta-kill. If the ammunition damage models are ever fixed, aim for the magazine under the rear turret instead. Even if the armor belt is fixed, this vulnerability should still remain present, since the deck armor is correct as is, so keep it in mind for the future. Against cruisers, it's still pretty resilient, especially if they're not aware of the swapped armor belt, so getting in close to confirm hits with the main guns and bring the secondaries to bear works pretty well. Just watch for torpedoes at close range, as 4-meter depth torpedoes will severely damage or kill Hyuga. At longer ranges, I would recommend using the ranging fire keybind to stagger shots and rapidly adjust for the enemy's distance using that, as it means that a miss isn't 30 seconds of reloading wasted. For modification order, I would recommend toolset, fire protection, 356mm Type 3 APC, rudder replacement, shrapnel protection, ventilation, propeller replacement, ammo wetting, and engine maintenance. For crew skills, prioritize leadership, main caliber reload speed, crew interchangeability, fire prevention, and ship control. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more naval content.